Hi everyone, Emma here and welcome back to my channel. So I hope everybody's well, and today's video we are going to be doing the easiest watercolour skies imaginable. So I found out about this technique a few months ago, and I've been using it whenever I paint skies ever since, and it's just so wonderfully easy that I wanted to share it with you. Some of you may know about it, others may not, but let's get on with it. So I'm going to be working on Fabriano Artistico cold pressed, and I've got £140 paper here, and it's on a block, so that means it's glued on all sides, and you have a little lip at the top where you can run a knife under the glue and take your piece off. Working on a block just means that your paper doesn't buckle as much, so it retains its straightness a bit more. So I'm going to tape off my paper first, and just using some pink masking tape, and I like to sort of put it right at the edge and press it right down. Now with this tape's so good that I don't need to sort of remove some of the residue first by pressing it on my jeans or whatever, which you do with some tapes. This one is absolutely perfect. It's never ripped my paper so far, she says, which is good. So do the sides, and I always like to really press it down just to make sure it's got a good seal, because sometimes when you're using a lot of water for washes, which I will be using a lot of water, sometimes it does tend to make the tape lift. So I like to really give it a good pressing. So let's just get this on. Yeah. And I'm going to split it into two sections. So I'm going to show you one sky that is just plain old blue, and then we'll add some more colours into the next one, because I'm also going to show you how to do a really nice gradient. So there we go. Now I'm going to be using M. Graham's Cerulean Blue for my sky, because it's a really good sky colour. Whichever paint you've got will do absolutely fine. So I'm just going to put a little blob on my palette here. There we go. And I'm going to add some water and just mix that down. Add a bit more water. And then I'm just going to test the strength on a scrap piece of paper, and yep, I want more water. It's a bit strong. Obviously it will dry. It will dry not as strong when it's actually on the paper as well, because there's going to be water on there. But that's about the consistency I want. So there's our paint mixed. The other thing that we're going to be using is tissues, just normal tissues, whatever tissues you've got. So I'll get a couple of those out ready. And I'm going to start by applying my water to my paper, and we're going to go for a nice even glaze of water. So we don't want any puddles and we don't want any dry bits, we just want a nice even glaze. And I'm using a 3/4 inch Princeton Neptune. So I always use 2 pots of water, one to wash my brush in and one to apply clean water to the paper. Sometimes I use 3, depends on what I'm doing, but for today I've just got 2. And starting with this left side, I'm just going to apply the water. Make sure we give it a good thorough coat and that all the paper's wet. And there's my little dog Marshall. He's having a bit of a whinge in the background. And that's because I'm not playing at the moment. So once you've applied your water, just take a look at your paper, tilt it to the side if you need to, and just make sure, hopefully you can see that you have a nice even glaze with no puddles and that the water's distributed nice and evenly, like that. Right, still using that 1/4 inch brush, I'm going to take some of this mix, and I want my sky to be darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. So I'm going to start from the top and I'm going to drag this colour down, adding some more. And that's the beauty of having a flat wash brush, is that you can just go from side to side, nice big strokes, and pull it down. I'm going to add a bit more pigment to this because it's not dark enough at the top. And again, I'm just going to pull that down. And as you can see, we're getting that lovely, nice gradient from dark to light. Now, while this paper is still wet, you have to do this while the paper is still wet. You can't do it when it's dry. We take our tissue, crumple it up just into a shape. And now, what I'm going to do is simply, I'm going to go from this side first because it's my opposite side. I'm going to dab my tissue on and take out some of the areas where I want clouds. And remove the colour, like that. And then again on this side. Just blotting it on and picking up the colour. And I'm changing sides on my tissue, so I'm sort of like retwisting it, reknotting it so that it's not the same and I haven't got completely saturated pieces of tissue. And then I'll use little sort of very slight tapping motions to pick up wispy bits at the top of the clouds there. And then refold it again, and we'll take another small one from this side. And a little bit from this top corner here. And a few more wispy bits here. And it is as simple as that. And you've got yourself some wonderful cloud shapes there. Now, once that's dried, I'll come back and we'll have a look and see how it looks. Okay, so that's drying off nicely, and you can see that because the tissue doesn't completely pick up all of the pigment when you're blotting it, that it leaves like little shadowy pieces and some lovely formation in the clouds. So it's looking rather nice. So we'll move on to this side now, and I'm going to turn the paper around. So I'll put it this way up, and we're going to add some yellow into this one so that we can have sort of more a sunset-y feel sky. So let's mix up a bit of yellow. So I'm going to use a bismuth yellow for this, or a lemon yellow would do just fine as well. Let's just take a little bit of that. And I want this quite light, so take a bit more pigment. And then again, I'll test that on my card, and yep, that's looking about what I want. So we'll mix up another bits of this blue. Okay, I hope you can see that. So we're about ready to go. So again, I'm going to wet the entire area. I did splatter some blue from doing that side, but I'm not concerned about it. It's going to be covered up, so that doesn't really matter. Adding clean water to this side. And again, just making sure that that water's nice and even. For some reason, my water's bubbly today. Don't know what's happening. Yeah, nice even glaze. It's going to add a bit more to the corners, as they tend to dry out the quickest. Okay, now I'm going to use a number 12 round Princeton to apply the first bit of the yellow. So I'm going to pick that up, and say if I want my sunset sort of around here. So I'm going to come around in a circular shape, leaving an area of white, just a small area of white, and then I'm going to bring my yellow out. And trail it out on this side, sort of streaky. And just a bit at the top. Like that. So it's sort of darker at the bottom. A bit more pigment down here. You could even add a bit of pink into this if you want, but I haven't mixed it, so I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to clean my brush, get rid of all that yellow. Dry my brush off on some kitchen towel, and I'm just going to go back around inside the circle to make sure that that stays white. Like that. I'm just going to make sure that all of this top area of my paper is still adequately wet. And again, I'm going to go into the blue, straight at the top, and bring it down. Like that. And then with using the very edge of the brush, I'm just going to bring in a few little bits to the side. I'm going to wash my brush off. And I'm just going to sort of tease those in with the water that's left on the brush, just to add a few little streaks, so the blue down here is not as apparent. And then I may add just a bit more at the top here, darken it up a little bit. There we go. I'm taking my tissue again and just scrunching it up. And this time I think we'll scrunch it up into sort of a smaller shape so we can get smaller clouds. And we're going to have little thin wispy ones. And just above the sunset, take them across there. And here. And again, just dabbing. Get a and we'll bring one in from this side. Like that. And we'll lift a little bit from here as well. You won't see it as much down here because the pigment is obviously a lot lighter. And we'll just take some wispy bits from that top one. And there we go. So we'll leave that to dry and then we'll come back. Right, so they're both pretty much dry now. So we'll turn this one back around. And I've just mixed up a tiny bit of a neutral tint here. So you can use a neutral tint or a Payne's grey or something relatively dark and neutral. And I've got a tiny little 02, so that's a 2 times smaller than 0 Escada brush here. And just as long as you've got a really small brush. And I'm going to just take a little bit of this neutral tint and just to add a little bit of interest to the pieces. Oh, they're attached. I have to turn my page to do this. Don't know why. We're just going to add a few tiny little faint birds in the distance. And I always tend to do things in 3s, or 3s or 5s, because odd numbers are always better than even numbers as far as composition is concerned. So I'll just add a few to that one. And we'll turn this one down, turn it round. And I'm just going to water that down a little bit more to make these a little bit lighter. And these are going to be, the birds on this one are going to be sort of coming away from the sun. So we'll go for one here. One here. And then of course the higher up the sky they get, the smaller and the lighter they're going to appear. And one here. Okay, so we can now take the tape off. So when you take the tape off, I tend to hold the paper as I'm taking it off. I know this tape doesn't rip, but just so that it comes off nice and clean. And then we have seeped a little bit there, but to get rid of seepage marks, if you use, I know in the UK they're called magic sponges, flash magic sponge I think they are. So they look like this. They're like this weird little spongy thing. If you get a little bit of water on the edge of the sponge, I'm not going to do it now because my paper here isn't quite 100% dry, but if you get a little bit of water and just rub at the edge where the seepage is, it will come off nice and clean and no one will ever know it was there. Okay. And so there we have it. The easiest clouds and watercolour skies ever. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please consider giving it a like and subscribe down below, because that really helps me out and it lets me know that you like my videos and you'd like to see more. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.